Hi, welcome to the first Positive Notes Intermediate Flute tutorial. In this video, we're going to be working on a song called Gavotte, which is a very typical first intermediate solo. We'll work on the first half of the song in this video and then the second half in the next video. So you can actually access this song down below on the same web page in the music section. There is a PDF, and you can either look at it online or print it out. Once you have your PDF up, the first thing you want to look at is the time signature and the key signature, which is right up at the top. And I'll tell you right now, this is in a major key, and if you look at the key signature, there are two sharps, which means that it is in D major. A good thing to do before you start playing the actual song is to play the scale, or the D major scale, to get the notes in your head. So I'll play that for you right now, and I invite you to either play along or just pause it when I'm done to play along. I just play that scale in 2 octaves because the range of this entire piece is actually low D all the way past middle D to high D. And if you don't know any of those notes, you can check out the fingering chart down below, but this song will be a little bit difficult if you're just learning high C and high D and low D for the first time. So another thing that you want to look at before you play is the time signature, which is right next to the key signature. And the time signature actually says it's in cut time, a C with a slash through it, so everything will be worth half of what it usually is. But for now, we're just going to play it in common time to learn the notes and everything, and then later you can switch it to cut time. It also tells you right here how fast you're supposed to be playing the piece, or it gives you sort of a general idea. Right here it says allegretto, which means a little bit allegro. And allegro means happy, or a lot of people interpret happy as playing fast. So you could think of this as playing a little bit fast. Of course, when you're learning a song for the first time, it's always good to slow down the tempo a little bit to get used to the notes before you play it at a full fast tempo. And one more thing that we look at before you start playing is the dynamics. And this piece starts out in piano, so you should be playing it very soft to give yourself room to grow when it directs you to play mezzo forte and forte. So I am going to start out by playing the first 2 lines, and then I'll talk about that and we can move on to the next 2. I'm going to set the metronome very slow at 60, and I recommend you do the same or even set it slower just to make sure that you play all of the notes correctly. Eventually you're going to want to move it up to about 80. So a couple things in this section. First of all, you'll notice a lot of the notes have little dots on top of them, which that means that you should be playing it you should be playing the notes staccato. And staccato means that you should be playing the notes more detached, so that there's space in between each note. Some people will say you play them shorter, which is technically true, but it's better to think of it as playing them detached. And so, for example, the first 8 notes you would play instead of you would play them etc. And then some of the notes, it's the opposite. They have a line over them. And you can think if a little dot means detached, a line should mean that it's not detached, it's very full. So, for example, if we play it with a metronome, your note should go all the way from one tick to the next. So instead of playing like this, you should play your notes like this. And you'll want to continue paying attention to that throughout the piece because the composer makes a point to put staccatos and legatos on top of a lot of the notes. And one other thing about this first section is that it has these little grace notes, which are probably new to a lot of you. Grace notes are little notes that lead you in to the main note you're playing. So you should be playing them very quickly, just as quick as you can, right before the beat. And they're just, the main idea is for them to lead you in to the note that people should be paying attention to. So you'll go. And sometimes it can be a little bit hard to finger them at first, so a good way to practice is just to play that one note at a time. Or just to play that measure. But one thing you really want to make sure that you do is to play all three of these quarter notes the same length, even though one of them has a grace note. It shouldn't take up any more time to play that note and its grace note than it should any of the other quarter notes. And a good way to make sure that you're on beat is just to practice that with a metronome. That is about it for the first section, so now I'll play the third and fourth lines and talk about that. I apologize, since I had the metronome on, I wasn't able to play the ritardando, but I'll explain that in a second. So, but first, you'll notice now there are three notes next to each other with the legato markings, so you want to make sure that you're playing those notes with no space in between them. You're still tonguing them, but don't take a breath in between them, certainly, and just make sure there's no space in between them when you're playing. And that second group of three quarter notes has a crescendo below it. So that means you should make it grow in volume. You're going to increase the volume as you play those three notes. So. And then you are going to actually continue at that louder volume because there's a dynamic mezzo forte right here. So you'll keep playing louder. Since before you were playing piano, now you're playing at a louder tempo. And as I had mentioned before, there's a ritardando right here, or RIT is short for ritardando, and that means that you should slow down. So as you play those three notes, each one should be a little bit longer than the last. And once you get to this group of notes, you'll go back to the original tempo. So I guess I will play that as an example. The ritardando you won't be able to play when you're practicing with a metronome, so you'll have to turn off the metronome for that part to practice it. But congratulations, now we have made it all the way through the first 4 lines, and I will work on the next 4 lines with you in the next video.